Hello, welcome to your weekly energy report for the week of May 10th. I hope you're well, and I hope that you feel accomplished having gotten through the energies of this past week. Let's be honest, it wasn't fun. Black Moon Lilith has been doing a bit of a macabre song and dance for some time, and I think it really came to. I'm not sure exactly why, because there's nothing in the astrology of this last week that specifically pointed towards this, other than the fact that it was in preparation to Black Moon Lilith being in being enhanced by the sun and the moon this coming week as we look towards this new moon in Taurus, which will be an incredible breath of fresh air. Rest assured. But Black Moon Lilith, yeah, what does she do for us? Well, she makes us have to look at our deepest, darkest fears. So, for the vast majority of us, given that we are mortal, three-dimensional human beings, a lot of that comes down to our mortality. A lot of it comes down to our fear of ineffectiveness, our fear of waste, our fear of obscurity, our fear of not being seen or felt or considered. It's all this, and we will, of course, get into this card because it is our underlying energy of the week that we are moving through and away from. And I do think it's going to be massive. Prepare yourselves. That goddamn Eight of Swords energy. Now, the reason I'm being so perky and happy is because we do have good reason for that. This is always a good time of year energetically, and we have relatively good planetary aspects to accompany it this year. But I've noticed, just on a side note, that my videos, where I used to feel insecure when they would fluctuate in viewership, I now understand a lot of the time the people that don't watch my videos when they have lower views are people who are turned off by the idea of facing darkness, facing their inner fears, facing their true nature. And I understand, I'm not in judgment of that. I understand the ebb and flow of our capacity to be able to actually be in alignment with spirit as we work on ourselves. And sometimes we want to check out and not deal with those things. And sometimes we're triggered when we hear somebody else bringing us into energy that, especially for those of us who, consider ourselves light workers or trying to stay on a spiritual path. It takes a lot of work, a lot of energy in this insane world that we live in to maintain that sense of structured purpose and direction. However, as you all know, those that watch me regularly, I cannot bear Pollyannaism. So Pollyannas can get the fuck off my channel. I don't want you here. Honestly, I don't. If you're not here to learn, if you're not here to share in this energetic process, this isn't the place for you. And I don't really care if my views go down to zero. Well, actually, zero would suck, but I know they won't go down to zero because I know plenty of people who follow my work who actually are not afraid to face themselves and work through things. So I'm sorry if that sounds exclusionary, but I am getting a little bit tired of people in the spiritual community at large um, living in this deranged detachment from reality. I will say it again, as I will probably end up saying it on a regular basis for the duration of this channel. You are here to have a 3D experience of life. You are here to be a human being. You are here to experience the full spectrum of emotions that humanity experiences. And if you think that you can circumvent that, if you think that you are in your 20s or your 30s or your 40s or your 50s or 60s or 70s, even, depending on what your lifespan ends up being, uh, you still have room for growth, which means you still have room to experience new dynamics, new concepts, new emotions, new nuances that you have never even imagined. And you should be excited about that. Even where there's pain, even where there's darkness, even where there is um, fear and doubt, it's the opportunity to explore, learn, and rise above, right? And that's what we do together, even if it's me doing all the talking right now. Um, it's the only way that we're going to work through this stuff. And, that's exactly what Black Moon Lilith is. It's an energetic representation of all of those things that the vast majority of humans would rather circumvent, bypass, and bury. But of course, you know, there's a reason why water represents emotions. Water will come and wash away all of the shit that you put on top of those emotions and will expose the raw subconscious energy for everything that it has in its potency in the most inconvenient way if you continue to avoid it. Now, I know that those of us that are not in avoidance of it, I mean, we all fall into the trap of avoidance, right? Um, every now and then. Sometimes you just need a break, you know. Um, but we we face this, all of this, in authenticity, in honesty, in complicity. And I want you to know, if you're struggling right now, if you have been struggling, that you are absolutely not alone. There is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing that you are experiencing that is not um, completely in alignment with the energetic flow of the universe. It is and has been and will continue to be exactly as it is intended. And we have to learn to embrace that. We have to learn to be open to it. The amazing thing is that when we go through those periods, the universe always offers us a respite, and we're coming up to that time. In fact, I believe that the rest of May will be relatively smooth sailing for all of us. I think that our fears of inadequacy and our fears of underachieving, our fears of failure, our fears of, you know, well, it's all FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, essentially, whether that be about our health, our accomplishments, our reach, our uh, feelings of lack of love or recognition, all of these things. Um, that's going to evolve in a way that I think we'll all be very pleased with um, in the next few weeks. So remember to take all of that into consideration as you make the decision to set intentions for this new moon in Taurus this coming week. Think about everything that you feel that you deserve. Think about everything that you have been wanting that you have not received yet. And consciously put that into your thought process of manifestation, because I know that this week ahead is a week where you can actually achieve a great deal along that path. I'm moving slightly this way. I don't know why, but it just feels like I need to. Okay. I don't really wish to speak that much more about the astrology. Mm, I'm just thinking if there's anything else I really did want to expose in that way. No, I don't. Just know that you are now moving into, I wouldn't call it a portal, it's just a state of being that allows for manifestation of love, compassion, empathy, warmth, um, reciprocation, you know. And a lot of it is just about letting go of old narratives. So let's get into the cards because I think that they will help us to um, determine how that's going to be best handled by us. Our spirit animal oracle card of the week is Crow Spirit. Co-create with spirit. I think that is perfectly uh, transparent. I love crows. I think that they're one of the most beautiful. Well, I mean, all animals are beautiful in their own way, but crows, playfulness and clever spirit, quick-wittedness, like resourcefulness, and mystical insight, as far as I am concerned, is quite extraordinary. There's a lot of crows here in Los Angeles, and there's a lot of crows up where I work, which is at the top of a mountain or hill. I mean, it is a mountain actually, but and of course they're scavengers in the sense that there's a lot of trash cans around, and they're always looking for something up there. But you know, they also they're like a community bird. They make themselves known, and sometimes some of them, and they're enormous, and they have like the hugest wingspan. And I'll be coming down the hill in my car, and like sometimes they'll fly alongside the car, and I always feel very connected to them. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that. Crow Spirit's Oracle Message. As you look around you, can you sense the magic that pulses through the world? Have you witnessed how every thought can become a thing? How every intention can call the universe into action as the sacred laws shape what you experience? The universe works in perfect order. When you align your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs with spirit, you will want to crow with delight, feeling the excitement and wonder of being in harmony with something much larger than yourself. Crow Spirit says you are right on target now to see your dreams magically come into being in the visible world. The laws of abundance, compensation, frequency, and praise are operating in your favor now. Remember to be grateful and praise what is yours, even if it is still coalescing into form, still residing in the invisible realms of co-creation. No matter what area of your life you're concerned with now, what you hope for is on its way, for Spirit is your co-creation partner. Um, yeah, I mean, sometimes we need that reassurance. And as I say, the crow is an animal that, for me personally, always reminds me of that. I mean, I just sense it with crows that they have, we look at all these animals, like right now, there's a lot of focus on octopus intelligence, and obviously that's an incredibly, I mean, unbelievably extraordinary, like, manifestation of nature at its most potent. But there are certain animals that carry this sort of independent majesty to them, uh, and I think crow is one of those, along with octopus and uh, deer. I always feel deer carry the. I don't know what I'm talking about right now. Why am I even telling you about that? These are personal opinions. They're animals that I commune with. So, not that I get to see an octopus too often. Anyway, that is total nonsense coming out of my mouth right now. Maybe just to keep things light, because I'm reassuring you that that is on the way. But in order to get to that light, we have to talk a little bit about what has been going on with us with that Eight of Swords energy being our underlying energy of the week. This is all about our insecurities. This is our self-doubt. This is like what we don't, what we're not comfortable with. And it's interesting because our Sacred Destiny Oracle cards, we got 3 of them. We start with truth, which we've had a few times in recent weeks. We have purification, and we have release. Now, of course, these in themselves are all very basic concepts and obviously a necessary part of a purge. But I think it's very interesting to see the order in which they came because, the truth, of course, is an absolute in many ways, but of course, as we've seen in our current climate conditioning, and I mean cultural climate, the truth has been misconstrued as something that is not absolute, and we've all moved into a place because of this sort of spiritual awakening mixed in with the turmoil of our world into an individuated notion of truth, which is nonsense, because in order for us to exist as social beings, we have to have basic truths that are shared. So the purification card is there to sort of remind us that sometimes our truth gets a little dusty, or it gets a little colored by the nuances of our own trauma programming and fear. And fear is probably the most potent warp energy of any that can shift the truth into something completely disproportionate and eventually even misshapen and totally misconstrued. So this is about looking at our fears, understanding what they are, accepting them, and then okay, if you can do this, you take a fear and you face it in its truth and reality, and then you see it, you visualize it shrinking into the grand scope of life as to what it actually is, because it's conditional. One fear you can allow, your mind can allow to take over everything in your life. It can literally prevent you from leaving your home. It can prevent you from being able to get sleep. It can prevent you from having an appetite. It can, and not just literally for food, but also for anything in life, And then you think about it, it's a thought, We always have to remember, with these swords, these are thoughts. Swords are thoughts. They are no more than, formed patterns of information that our brain, with its incredibly complex chemistry, when you think about how neurotransmitters work, when you consider the compounding of trauma, all of these different things, of course, these thoughts can quickly become monsters. But we do get to choose, to a certain degree, how much space we give to them, right? And when we are having a hard time with them, we have to remind ourselves that we co-create with spirit. So we can turn to spirit. We can turn to our guides, our archangel presence, coexistence, to help with this purification process of our truth, and ultimately to release the aspects that don't serve us, which essentially is all fear. Other than that, that is about um, actually, it is just all fear. I mean, I know that's hard to believe sometimes because, we're so conditioned by fight or flight and from our ancestral trauma that we think that fear should be an integral part of our lives. And, the reality is if you're alert and you're paying attention, you don't have to fear crossing a road because you would choose to cross where there weren't cars and where there was minimal room for an accident to take place. Um, Somebody who has been run over by a car or seen somebody else be run over by a car, um, perhaps then their fear is that every single crosswalk is, you can't trust drivers, you can't trust the lights, you can't trust, anything. That's, you know, that's a truth that has been warped. Yes, it may have happened once, but what were the circumstances that led to that? I don't want to go too deep into an example of being run over by a car, but it is a very obvious, tangible example of how our fears can take hold. Um, so apply that to the fears that you have been feeling with Black Moon Lilith. The opportunity is there, the invitation is there to release those things. Because that's the thing. I mean, there's no planetary or astral influence that is there to punish us into being conditioned to perpetuate fear. You know, planets like Pluto um, it is a planet, whether they like to call it that or not, and Neptune and Uranus and um, and then celestial influences like Black Moon Lilith. These are all there to put an end on the evolutionary process to the things that get in our way. But of course, they're going to be uncomfortable. That's just part of the human experience. We are here to have uncomfortable experiences, you know? If it was all fun and games, you'd be one of these morons, you know, chasing reality TV dreams or something, I mean, which is a lot of people, unfortunately. But, that's basically the truth. That's why it's so offensive and stupid and a waste to live in that Neptunian distraction of entertainment without being able to anchor yourself in your own process of betterment and evolution. Um, okay, let's get right into the reading, which is a little different this week because I only took 6 cards and I will take clarifiers as we go, to move around this Eight of Swords delineation that tells us, the theme of this week is about the release with the Death card, a total release of this poverty consciousness, small minded, fear driven self image. Now, that doesn't mean that there's an outer revolution when we face that. A lot of the time, we're constantly in the flow with spirit to receiving new information about things that aren't in alignment with our best interests. And this obviously evolves too, because I mean, at one point in your life, you may need to find a job. And so, therefore, the kinds of insecurities and the kinds of um, inspirational energy for that particular goal are going to be very different than when you're, um, you know, comfortably in a career and perhaps instead you're having relationship issues or you want to find a relationship or whatever, then you're going to have other challenges, obviously, in order to push you along that journey. Again, I will reiterate. Um, I understand that there's a vast majority of people within the spiritual community right now who are very much focused on the idea of separating themselves out of the conventional 3D matrix perspective on life as much as possible. And they're sort of in this you know, idea of being in another um, dimensionality or another realm, um, which, I mean, again, I hate to say it, it's all based on ego, because if you're really thinking that that's the way that it works, then you're in total delusion of uh, self, right? That's all ego telling you that you're a chosen one, that somehow you've managed to circumvent something that the rest of humanity hasn't. Really? Do you really think that that's going to happen to you when you're 30 or 35 or 40 or even worse with like this newer generation, like 17? No fucking way. You're here to have the full spectrum human experience, and that's going to be um, filled with all kinds of experiences and problems and solutions, joy, pain, all of it. And isn't that the beauty of everything that we're here to experience? What are you going to do if at like 35 years old you've like figured that you've ascended? Bye-bye, off to, then you wouldn't have chosen to come to this, you know, life force experience to begin with, would you? So let's accept that from the outside that, we're given this major opportunity right now, or I mean, this is sort of our underlying past into the present energy, the death card over that Eight of Swords. Basically, all of these cards are going to relate back to this Eight of Swords energy. So let's just remind ourselves of what the Eight of Swords is. This person is self imprisoned, has every opportunity to walk away. They're avoiding their subconscious thoughts because they're terrified of them. And these are the thoughts that are keeping them in their little like mental jail. And, this person's poised. They could probably, whatever this thing is that's tying them down, they could probably untie it very easily. It really doesn't look that restrictive, you know. But as long as you're afraid to put your toe into the subconscious thought process, you know, what are you? You're afraid of yourself? That's what that card is. You're afraid of yourself. You're actually afraid of all that could happen to you and for you with the blessings that you have. So it's a choice, right? And of course, I mean, I'm very well versed in that. I mean, I know exactly how that feels to be in that place of lack. Um, and we face it all the time. I'll give you a very tangible example of that. Okay, so a friend of mine, um, I went out with them last night, and um, I walked along Santa Monica Boulevard with my friend, like for hours actually. Here in Los Angeles, Santa Monica Boulevard, where I live in West Hollywood, is um, traditionally it was called Boys Town. It's very gay, and so Saturday, the weekend nights tend to be filled with people in the street. And of course, after the pandemic, slowly there's been like sort of a return. The youth is out, it's like really is young people who are out because they're like, fuck it, I need to have a life. I'm not just spend a year locked in, confinement and restrictiveness. I want to go out and enjoy myself, Well, being a part of that energy, I was very acutely aware of the fact that, I mean, most of these people everywhere are like, in their 20s. There I am, dressed as I was at work, in a blazer and shirt and jeans and boots and, you know, um, My friend is like, a bit younger than I am, and tends to go for sort of slightly uh, avant-gardist kind of attire, but um, uh, or should I say, on the nose trendiness. So I was very acutely aware of the fact that, I had something almost patrician about me, by comparison. And was I comfortable in that mindset? Well, there were moments when I felt very like I had those thoughts where I was like, oh, I feel like weird right now. It's like my friend is approaching this as if all these people everywhere are potential, like, people to flirt with, or like, they were his peers. For me, I was like, uh, I was looking at it from an outside perspective. But instead of falling into the insecurity of like, oh, I'm old, like this is so not my scene, I was like, no, I am a part of this in my own way, my own unique way. I'm not a participant in the same way because I'm not looking to have my ego fed. I just wanted to be a part of something, energetically. So there's an example, as banal as that might sound, of how we move beyond Eight of Swords energy. Um, and it is about coming into our empire, our personal empire. This emperor is here to represent us in this process, what we're moving into, which is coming into an understanding of exactly who we are and what um, our values are and what we bring to the table and what makes us unique over um, everyone else, what our individual capacity is. And we get it clarified by the high priestess. Because, of course, like if you're watching this, you, like me, have a, a focus on, what makes you unique is your insight, your intuitive strength, um, your spiritual awareness. And is that something that you allow to emanate from you? You have to allow that to be a part of your essence. That is the best thing that you have. So, are you wearing it in the way that you would if you thought that the best thing you had was like your tits or your legs or your eyes? It's like, um, think about that and how you function with that. Um, uh, our past energy here is, again, thank goodness it's in the past. The Five of Swords. Of course, this all makes sense. I mean, this is pretty simple in its, direct and immediate interpretation. It's like basically, how does the Five of Swords relate to the Eight of Swords? Well, the Five of Swords is clinging to that idea that the most important thing in life is to carry your sword in victory over others. And what really we see, the truth of it is that these ideas have been destroyed. He's carrying this one like, as if his life depends on it, and his value, his smugness is like dependent on the idea that, oh, I still have my sword and I'm carrying it strong. And I have, I'm using the other sword like as sort of like, it's just sort of there to say, oh, like I got this. And these two he can't even be bothered with. They've abandoned it. They're moving away. They're moving on. This person's clearly in sorrow, and this person's clearly in defeat. And what does this person, the winner, like actually like really come away with, other than smugness in their emotions, which will last about 5 minutes because eventually they're going to realize that they're all alone. They don't really have much to show for that in the long run, do they? And so, and that's actually, in many ways, a way to maintain those eight swords, because in fact, that egoic victory is very much a part of insecure, because you need the egoic victory when you have that pronounced degree of insecurity, right? If you don't have those insecurities, then you don't need to feel that you win. You just need to be a part of the process. Of course, you have goals, but goals are not about winning. Goals are about attaining, right? I'm not sure. I guess I don't think we really need a clarifier on the Five of Swords because it's pretty self-explanatory. Again, a lot of swords in prominent areas of this reading, which makes sense. Our next energy, which is very much how would I put this? This is, what is this? This is an action card. This is like what we are doing. Pretty straightforward there. The Six of Swords, moving away from troubled thoughts, because that's really what it comes down to. Again, this is like, we've had all this turmoil in our thoughts. We've probably, I'm pretty sure that you can relate to that. These, I think it's why a lot of people also felt that they were jumping ship from like a lot of their spiritual outlets in life, was because it's just like, oh my God, please, no, I can't take any more of this, like, like empty promise that we're going to reach this, sort of pinnacle or whatever. It's like, that's the turmoil. That is actually the Five of Swords. The things that I've talked about moving away from over the last few months, the reason why I couldn't relate to them anymore was very much because they're so driven by the ego, even though everything about what they say and preach is anti-egoic, so to speak, in a bizarre intellectual, conceptual way. It's not something that you could truly integrate into your life. What we need are tools that allow us to integrate our lessons, our experiences into our physical 3D life experience, right? We're not looking to transcend as if to no longer have an experience. That's what that Five of Swords ultimately says, is this person they're not going to have any more experiences. They better go to their mountaintop very quickly based on their philosophy. But guess what? They're going to be really lonely and they're going to probably want to die. Because why on earth would you want to have that kind of an experience? Why would you bother being alive, if that's the way that you're experiencing life? In total isolation and alienation, cut off from the the realm of human possibility. That's not what you're here for. I mean, and our future energy is the Wheel of Fortune. So moving away from this mental strife is going to shift everything for us, because our outcome is the Ten of Pentacles. Well, our outcome, it's an advice, it's a card of counsel on the future energy. So it's basically in what way does the Wheel of Fortune turn towards an understanding of our earthly fulfillment. It's now time, as we shift, and we are moving up. We're just not moving out. We're learning to have an even better experience of Earth. And you know what? If you need to, for the next 3, 4 months, like longer even, take a time out from the news, take a time out from everything that if it makes you uncomfortable, just get rid of it or put it on pause, step away from it to give yourself the chance to 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 just experience joy, to just experience no matter what it is. If you have a health goal, if you have professional goal, if you have, I don't know. I mean, there's so many goals that you could have. I'm not going to enumerate them. That would be really stupid. Clearly, I don't really have that many ideas of what your goals could be anyway, because that's as far as my mind went. But it's like, you know, don't focus on the end goal. Focus on the process. Take it slow. Take a step back. Allow yourself to have experiences, earthly, worldly experiences. If that means that you want to try a new um, coconut milk latte with protein powder for breakfast instead of eating your berries and yogurt or whatever, do it. Switch things up. You'd be amazed at how much just switching things up, giving yourself permission to switch things up. Again, my experience of walking along the boulevard last night, I sound like a hooker. I don't drink alcohol, as I've talked about a few times. Well, last night, I do have a fondness for kombucha, which is like fermented, who knows what, cabbage juice or something. I think it's delicious. I drink it with sparkling water. Comes in a wide array of odd flavors. My favorite is called cayennade, which is ginger and cayenne pepper. But anyway, they have hard kombucha, which has alcohol in it or higher alcohol content because all kombucha has a tiny little bit of alcohol in it. Of course, the fermentation process allows for more, and it's actually very low sugar. That's what's really good about it. So I had a couple of Boochcraft kombucha, hard kombucha drinks with my friend. Well, I mean, it's illegal to do this, but I did it open container style, drinking along the street. And I had the best time. And I didn't feel crappy today because I did it out of joy. I did it not out of a desire for indulgence, not out of a desire for escapism, out of a desire to let go more than anything. So there's one example. I'm not encouraging you to follow my example because, I mean, I'm also fiercely determined to maintain self-discipline, and that's not going to be happening very often. But still, it was me coming back down to earth and being like, you know what, Alex, you're a fucking human being. Have some human experiences. You want to connect with other humans? You better start being a part of humanity. Now, on another note, the reason for that need to rebalance things is because I have not been very satisfied or comfortable with things in other parts of my life, particularly professionally, and as a result of some deep-rooted family discomfort that I've been working through letting go of, the family stuff, so that I can be a whole person and hopefully find full forgiveness and detachment from those uncomfortable, painful triggers. But with work, it's a whole other thing. It's like I just don't, I mean, that's always been something that I've struggled with because I've never known how to find a drive or an ambition that was purpose driven, or at least I have, in the sense that what I most enjoy doing is supporting and supporting others. but um, there has to be opportunity to use my talents and to grow, and that's not been the case for me. So that's been causing an enormous amount of discomfort for me, um, and a lot of distraction from my own spiritual grounding and potency. So it's like finding that balance back in my own earthly desire and my own earthly belonging allowed me to step outside of a very skewed view of what my value and worth are. And of course, we're very much still in Taurus season, moving through the end of that second decan, where it's like essential for us to um, figure out our place in the outside world as a worthy person, as a person who is self-aware in their worth, right? So it sounds to me from these cards that we're like headed in a very pleasant direction in terms of coming to a better understanding of oh dear, self-worth. And excuse me. We're also coming to an ending of a Four of Swords period, which I know you know as well as I do that this has been a part of who we've been for quite some time. We have been in retreat. The Four of Swords is a card of healing. It can be a card of sickness or imbalance in any case. And, that's where we've been. We've been healing. We've been, this person has their hands in prayer, so they're also, above their what am I trying to say? Uh, Solar plexus, the heart energy, and then the lower chakras all pointing up in a need of surrender to the universe to be replenished. Probably in many ways, I mean, again, the irony is in the actual journey, of course, we have the Five of Swords and we have the Four of Swords. The, the Four of Swords, the implication would be that we go through this period of rest and then we come out fighting. That's the fighting spirit, and the fighting spirit can actually be a little delusional and probably misguided. Because we get this in the reverse, I'd say, and because it's correlated to our future energy, because this was the clarifier on our Wheel of Fortune, um, along with the Judgment card, which is a card of rebirth, and again surrender to spirit, but it's also about an awakening. It's about an opening up. It's about a decision. Actually, that's perfect. Thank you. So rather than going to battle as a result of resting, healing, instead, we leave the healing process now to be to receive from divine, which means coming into the fullness of our essence. The fullness of our essence, which is what breaks us beyond the Eight of Swords, because we know our uniqueness in our individuality. We know that if we're in touch with our subconscious mind, if we're in touch with our feelings, and we understand how they shape our thoughts, then we don't have to be imprisoned by our thoughts. Instead, we can release them. Um, can we just get one clarifier on the Ten of Pentacles, and then I'll pull an Osho Zen Tarot card, and then I think we'll call it a day for. Okay, yeah. So in moving into that, the thing that you want, the connection that you want, the vibrancy, the emotional vibrancy that you want. That you want to feel the electricity of love and joy and abundance in your emotional realm. This comes as we reconnect with our earthly desires, our idea of our physical legacy. Because we've been so much in our minds, when we go into the spiritual expansion mode that we've been in, particularly throughout the pandemic, lockdown and whatever, and really, I mean, everything that we've been going through since the eclipses of the summer of 2017, this giant awakening, it was very cerebral in many ways because we had to learn about how our bodies and our soul and spirit work together. So that's the way that humans work. I mean, we communicate and we categorize and we understand through thought processes, but at the same time, that was a very long and intense period of time to be in a state of disconnect. And now we're being plugged back in. We're being given that opportunity as long as we don't resist it. If we resist it, um, uh, we will get in our own way, inevitably. And the Page of Swords is looking right up at me as I say that. That is not the energy that we want to be in, because the Page of Thoughts receives well, maybe if we're in a place where we can let go of those old thought patterns that restrict us, then the Page of Swords is a student of philosophy, a student of opportunity, but can also, in a lower frequency way, be you know quite immature in the way that they experience thoughts, which of course immaturity in many ways is what keeps us in this Eight of Swords energy, because the reality is this person doesn't understand their power to self-parent. They don't understand their ability to self-nurture. They don't understand that they're not the inner child alone. They are the parent and the inner child, the inner parent and the inner child, right? And that's what breaks us out of that. Again, simple thing to do, but we have to remind ourselves sometimes of this. We have an inner child that very often, for many of us highly sensitive people, has been broken. And sometimes to a degree that causes enormous turmoil and pain and illness, but it's also a massive opportunity for us to have a really awakened, full, beautiful experience of life, because we keep questioning, we know that we have to keep moving forward. People that have always been comfortable, I don't know, they really get that opportunity, and maybe that's I don't know what the purpose of that is, but I know for all of the trials and tribulations that I've been through that have shaped me in my life, I wouldn't have it any other way. As absurd as that might sound, considering how painful a lot of those things were. I want to be me. I presume you want to be you, and that you love being you, and that you want to be the best you that you can possibly be. So, I lost my train of thought, but hopefully that was because I came to a conclusion on that. Okay, let's pull one or two Osho Zen tarot cards for the week before we wrap up. Inner child, yeah. So, so just be mindful of that. Take the time to nurture your inner child. Take the time to be playful with your inner child. Take your inner child out, as the parent. Take your inner child out for ice cream. Take your inner child out for a day at the beach. Take your inner child out for an excursion to a forest or, I don't know, an amusement park, or something playful and joyful and pleasant. And we got two cards here. I'm only going to read the success card, but we did also get going with the flow. So that speaks for itself, right? After what I just said. Let's read the Six of Wands, or the Six of Fire, which is the success card, which is the Osho Zen card for the week. Page 88. One moment. Sorry, I always take my time finding this, but here's the card, and I shall read for you. This character is obviously on top of the world right now, and the whole world is celebrating his success with a ticker-tape parade. Because of your willingness to accept the recent challenges of life, you are now, or you soon will be, enjoying a wonderful ride on the tiger of success. Welcome it, enjoy it, and share your joy with others. And remember that all bright parades have a beginning and an end. If you keep this in mind and squeeze every drop of juice out of this happiness you are experiencing right now or to come, you will be able to take the future as it comes without regrets. But don't be tempted to try to hold on to this abundant moment or coat it in plastic so that it lasts forever. This greatest wisdom to keep in mind with all the phenomena in the parade of your life, whether they be valleys or peaks, is that this too will pass. Celebrate, yes, and keep on riding the tiger. Watch the waves in the ocean. The higher the wave goes, the deeper is the wake that follows it. One moment you are the wave, another moment you are the hollow wake that follows. Enjoy both. Don't get addicted to one. Don't say, I would always like to be on the peak. It's just not possible. Simply see the fact. It is not possible. It has never happened and it will never happen. It is simply impossible, not in the nature of things. Then what do we do? Enjoy the peak while it lasts and then enjoy the valley when it comes. What is wrong with the valley? What is wrong with being low? It is a relaxation. A peak is an excitement, and nobody can continuously be in an excitement. So again, I'm just going to reiterate that having talked about all of the energetic shift of wanting to take our inner child out and treat our inner child with love and kindness and building our inner child up to be that force of nature of our individuated uniqueness. That is everything about the weeks ahead that we need to tap into after a particularly dense and challenging period of time. We were talking of peaks and valleys, that's pretty much what this Four of Swords in reverse is. It's like the end of a valley. We've been in a valley. There's nothing wrong with the valley. The lows are there to give us, to be able to sit in the experience. Sometimes you have to be in the density so that you absorb it fully to be able to fully understand it and move forward, This four of Swords in reverse is announcing with this rebirth and this Wheel of Fortune that we're climbing a mountain now, and we're going to be victorious, and we will come down the other side voluntarily when we're ready or when the universe decides for us, and that will be our continued flow of life until the end of this physical existence as we know it, and until the next one, wherever or however that manifests. So I love it. I love, love, love that we got this reading because I really wanted to be able to deliver something hopeful because I had this feeling. I mean, even though I don't necessarily feel like right now in my life that things are all hunky-dory and wonderful, I have this feeling that there's this breakthrough energy coming with this new moon in Taurus. So set those beautiful intentions for yourselves, lovely people. I really do love you very much, and I'm just I hold a knowingness for you because you are going to break through. I love you.